Hello, Earthlings. It's Neutron, back slinging another album review your way. Today, as you can tell from the title, we are examining the new Mike Shinoda album, Post-Traumatic. If you know anything about who Mike Shinoda is, it's obvious what this album is about, just telling from the title. But for those of you watching who don't know, both of you, Mike Shinoda was, until recently, the co-lead vocalist for Linkin Park, as well as the main musical force for the group. But just under a year ago, the death of Chester Bennington made him the only lead vocalist for the band, and the title of this album is a very obvious reference to that. I'm shooting this review on two separate occasions because half of the songs were released before the album, so I'm going to review that half here, and the other half the day the album comes out, and this video is uploaded. Anyway, let's get to the music. So the first three songs here were initially released as an EP, marking Mike's first release under his own name following the discontinuation of Fort Minor, and what better place to start than on an appropriately somber note with just one bass synth, one chordal synth, and Mike throwing out a lot of unanswered questions and unquelled fears, and an ultimate desire, followed by a bunch of voicemails from fans. Over Again is about the concert they held in Chester's memory, and the thoughts going through Mike's head at the time. In fact, some of those distant backing vocals almost sound like Chester, and I love the way his anger breaks through in the second verse, when he gets tired of repeatedly answering the same questions, no pun intended, over and over again. And then on Watching As I Fall, Mike examines his position and platform and responsibilities as an artist over a more hard-hitting beat with some signature early Linkin Park synths, and the fans were watching him as he fell, but where's the bottom he's falling to? He asks on Nothing Makes Sense Anymore. I don't know if the line about building something just to watch it fall apart is an allusion to Place to Start, but if it is, it's a nice one. And the lyrics sound exactly as I thought they would sound on a song called Nothing Makes Sense Anymore, in the context it's in. About You is about how the loss of a friend and bandmate becomes an inescapable thing, especially such a key ingredient as Chester Bennington. And at the risk of sounding like an asshole, his death came at a really bad time for the band. I mean, they were in the middle of a tour, they were about to release the music video for Talking to Myself. Yeah. I'm also loving the AC/DC reference where he mentions Back in Black, which a lot of people forget, especially those who don't know much about AC/DC, that Back in Black was their first album with Brian Johnson as the singer following the death of Bon Scott, and it went on to become one of the best-selling albums of all time, so I'm really digging that reference in the song. And the bridge is also sung by Black Bear, who I just found out co-wrote Sorry for Now, one of the few songs that features Mike on lead more than Chester in Linkin Park's canon. Another thing I also recently realized is that there are very few Linkin Park songs where all the vocals are Mike. I mean, even on In Between and Invisible, Chester's singing harmony, so really that only narrows it down to two songs, The Requiem and Fallout, which are both on 1,000 Suns, and both are reprises or teasings of lines that Chester sings at other points in the album. So yeah, his death is something it's just impossible to pretend didn't happen, and that's what About You is about. It's also got a nice trap beat at the end, when the chorus repeats. Brooding, the instrumental of the album, starts with some piano chords with a simple guitar line over them, which soon gives way to a much darker beat with some odd sounds reverberating in the background. It's hard to describe all the different sonic changes it goes through, even though it's the second shortest song on the album. But the overall vibe of Brooding is continued in Promises I Can't Keep, featuring Mike's most confessional delivery yet. And when the chorus beat kicks in, it really sounds like something off Minutes to Midnight or 1,000 Suns, or maybe even Living Things. Track 8, Crossing a Line, is the first actually uplifting song on the album, where Mike has decided not to stop caring about, but just to stop worrying about what other people think, and take the risk, in this case make a solo album about Chester, but it could be for anything. This is the first song that other people could sing, and it doesn't feel like it's terribly personal to Mike. It feels kind of universal. I mean, the closest he gets to alluding to Chester's death here is the line, "I got demons." But, you know, demons could be anything. So I'm definitely digging the inspirational vibe here after the last 7 tracks. I'm also digging the lack of reverb on the sort of stringy synth. It's like when it's there, it's really there, and when it stops, it's like it's not there at all. Track 9, Hold It Together, has the funkiest beat so far of the album, but again, the lyrics are very confessional about trying just to hold your composure together, but at the same time pretending that you're fine, mainly for your friends' sake, so they don't worry about you because you don't want that. And it's got a nice halftime breakdown in the middle as well. Ghosts is another uplifting song, this time a happy one, and I'm really digging the sock puppet music video. It almost sounds like something Brendan Urie would do. Speaking of him, you should subscribe so you don't miss my Panic at the Disco album review, which I'll be doing next week, before I go off the grid for a while, and I'll be back in July, for reasons I'll explain in that video. But yeah, there's not much else to say about Ghosts. It's a nice happy song, another one that could be taken out of context of the album and still work. Yeah. Make It Up As I Go was co-written by Brad Delson, the lead guitarist from Linkin Park. It's got a similar lyrical message to Crossing a Line, about how he doesn't quite know where he's going, but he's gonna go there because he knows he has to. But this time it's got a dance beat behind it, and K.Flay's voice in the chorus brings a pop sensibility to the whole thing. Track 12, Liftoff, is introduced by a Rhodes piano, and this song has the second least amount of Mike's voice after Brooding, because Chino Moreno from the Deftones sings the chorus, and Machine Gun Kelly does the second verse. There's almost no allusion to Chester in this song, apart from when Mike mentions recharging his battery. But I am digging the chorus and the way Chino sings it. Mainly, the song is one of Mike's "I'm the best" type raps, kind of reminiscent of his raps on 1,000 Suns, like "When They Come For Me." IOU has a similar theme to Liftoff, of Mike saying, "I'm the best," or "one of the best." One of my favorite lyrics here is, "Father like Francis, Anakin, or John Misty." Track 14 is a hard-hitting number co-written by Brad again, and he plays guitar on it, called "Running From My Shadow," about the cyclic nature of grief. It features a guest verse from Grandson, and that's got some nice lines in it, like "Dancing with the devil 'cause she's all I've ever known," and "Running from my shadow, now my shadow is my friend." Mike also has some great lyrics too. I like how he kept the bit at the end where Brad is done recording and he goes, "That felt pretty cool." In track 15, World's on Fire, Mike calls out to Chester, talking about how he's always been there for him in his low moments. But the beat sounds a bit more hopeful and major key, like a lot of the second half of the album, being more musically upbeat. And then Chester responds on the closer, "Can't Hear You Now." I'm glad that he closed this album with some semblance of a happy ending. I was not sure which way he'd go, whether he'd embrace the lack of an answer or he'd invent something resembling an answer, and he's done the latter. So on this track, he imagines Chester responding back to his call on World's on Fire, saying that he's in a happy place now, at last, and he wishes the same for Mike. And obviously this doesn't tie up any questions we have about the future of Linkin Park, but I wasn't expecting that, and I'm not going to expect anything from them from now on. I don't think they're gonna break up, because I don't think Chester would have wanted that. I'm pretty sure they're going to eventually have to find a new co-lead singer if they're going to keep performing songs from their first 7 albums. I hope Looking for an Answer gets a studio version made eventually. That's my one little disappointment thing with this album, is that Looking for an Answer wasn't on it. But other than that, I can't really say much about this album because, you know, it helped its creator heal, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Anyway, those are my opinions. I'm dying to hear yours if you want to leave them in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see my Panic at the Disco album review that comes out next Friday, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Also on the same day, I will be uploading a video talking about one of my favorite Panic songs, Impossible Year, if that's any more incentive to subscribe. But until next time, this is Neutron Sound signing off. Go forth and be one more light.